With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to PANORAMA, fifth session. Today we have a very special guest for a very special topic, that is emptiness. And before Dr. Ankit Goyal start his session, I would like to briefly introduce him to all of you. Dr. Ankit Goyal is an avid student of Buddhism and regularly attends various teachings given at Tibet House, New Delhi, by Venerable Keshe. He is following the master course in Nalanda Buddhist philosophy offered here at Tibet House. He received his Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT PHU in 2002 and PhD in Computer Science from National University of Singapore in 2009. His others interests include computer programming and application development, and currently works in the areas of finance, utilizing their skills. So, with this now, I would like to request Dr. Ankit Ji to proceed with his teaching.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction, and one thing is correct, the topic, today's topic is really very special, so I'm nowhere special at all. When sitting here, I feel mostly at all sitting here and talking about something one of the most profound topics of the Buddhist philosophy, which is in fact at the core of the whole Buddha Dharma. And also it's kind of unfortunate because you have been really been given teachings by Venerable Geshe himself. In the last session itself, he started beautifully. I listened to some of those recordings, and there was a flow of momentum. So I believe Venerable Geshe will continue with that in the next session, and I'll be like kind of picking up one aspect of that and trying to discuss that with you. And at any point of time, if I'm unclear or you have any questions, you can just feel free to raise your hand, and we'll try to discuss that. So it's not like a teaching or anything talk or like that. It'll be more like a discussion thing, and I'll just like to share with what I've learned myself by attending these sessions here with Keshala and just sharing my knowledge with you. So as you have been repeatedly told or understood, we always know this ourselves that what we inherently seek or instinctively what we want is to be happy and not want suffering in any form. And yet here we are today in Tibet House, we are attending these teachings for the main reason that there is something that we can do about it. Is there a possibility? We are exploring that possibility here through the means of Buddhism as a path whether it can lead us to that goal. And from what has been discussed so far, it says that we all have the seed of true happiness in the form of Buddha nature within us. And it is like the dirt mixed with water. The true nature is pure and defilements are adventitious. And by adventitious, what we mean that they can be removed by applying appropriate remedies. So our ignorance, which is said to be the root of all these defilements, that is the main root cause. And the defilements, as discussed, Geshe discussed last time, they are primarily of two kinds: gross defilements and subtle defilements, with the underlying cause being self-grasping ignorance for both of those defilements. So the whole idea or the whole path of Buddhism, one way or the other, leads to how can we eradicate this ignorance. And so as discussed that because this ignorance is so deep seated inside us, the tool that we need, which is the light of wisdom, it should be as powerful as possible to directly counteract this ignorance in its most deepest form. So for that matter, we want our mind to be this wisdom should be as sharp as possible, and also as stable as possible. And for this whole study, the PANORAMA course that has been conducted and the course contents are for the main purpose of that we can develop this wisdom. So we can develop this sharpness, our ability, our wisdom through analytical meditation. Yet it needs to be coupled with the steadiness and stable mind. That needs to be done through calm abiding meditation. So just to begin with, let us begin with the 5 minutes of calm abiding meditation. So I believe, just before we begin, just as a reminder, I believe you are all familiar with the 4 main points of the meditation. Are you all? So we'll just go through them quickly. First is a body posture. So main thing is to keep our backs straight and not use back support unless we have some back problem. And another very important thing is we should not close our eyes completely, but we need to keep them half open and looking 45 degrees downwards. And the tip of our tongue should be touching our palate to avoid the excessive accumulation of saliva. Secondly, the focus of meditation. We can simply count the cycles of breathing in and out, cycle 1, like this. We can continue counting till the end of meditation. And if somebody wants, they can also try to focus. They can imagine a bright white spot between our nose and upper lip, somewhere between 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters in diameter. And then together with counting the breathing cycles, one can also imagine and focus on that spot. So we'll just do this for 5 minutes. So we can start now. Thank you.
Not the question. Actually, I'm on leave at 7. So is it okay if I leave in 8?
So we'll start by briefly just recapitulating what Geshe-la taught in the last class, just as a quick review. So as I mentioned earlier, that the true source of our happiness or the Buddha nature that is within all of us. And the reason that why we cannot access it because it is covered by the defilements. And the defilements are of two kinds, gross and subtle. So if anyone can just would be willing to tell me what are those two defilements? Does anyone like to just list out?
The grosser one is the reflective observations, and the subtle one is the cognitive observations.
What are the three reflective observations?
Okay, first one is the contaminated karmas,
Right.
and afflictions, second one afflictions, and the third one is the active seeds. Those two.
Right. So two kinds of obscurations, gross and subtle. The gross ones are three kinds: contaminated karmas, afflictions, and the active imprints of the above two. Whereas the subtle obscurations are cognitive obscurations, which are the inactive imprints of the afflictions. And as also Geshe-la discussed, that what the afflictive obscurations are those which basically prevent us from accessing the fearless nature, the seed of fearlessness within us. And if we can remove those, we can achieve the state of nirvana. Whereas the cognitive obscurations are those that basically obscure our true seed of happiness, and they obscure us from attaining the full Buddhahood. So we need to eradicate these two in order to attain nirvana and Buddhahood. And furthermore, what underlies both these obscurations at their root is the self-grasping ignorance. And further, what Buddha taught, the ignorances in terms of teaching the ignorance, he taught 4 misperceptions, which are mainly what are main causes of our suffering, the 4 misperceptions that we have. So I would like to, if somebody can tell me the first misperception, what is that? You can just even read from your notes, that is fine.
Considering impermanent thing as permanent.
Can you speak to the mic?
Misperception of like considering impermanent thing to be permanent.
Right. Misperceiving impermanent things to be permanent. The second misperception. Anybody can. You can just read.
Seeing impure things as pure.
Right. So I think okay. Misperceiving impure things as pure. Right. Third.
Misery as happiness.
Okay. Misperceiving suffering, misery as happiness. And the fourth one. Misperceiving selfless nature as of self-love nature. So basically, I believe we should ask you to exchange the second and third. So second would become misperceiving suffering nature as of happy nature, and third one would become misperceiving impure as pure. And the reason why there is an order is because it becomes progressively subtler. The most subtlest one is the fourth one. Right. And as a remedy to these, Buddha taught the 4 seeds, which I think Geshe-la mentioned briefly, but we didn't go into the details. So I just mentioned the 4 seeds. The first one being all composite things are impermanent, and all contaminated things are of suffering nature. and then everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness, then transcending sorrow is nirvana, absolute peace. So I think that's where the class was ended. So underlying the subtlest form of ignorance which I mentioned is the self-grasping ignorance. And since this is supposedly the root cause of our suffering, in order to eradicate it, first we need to understand what the self-grasping ignorance is. Unless we understand this ignorance, only then we can think about the possible, if there is possibility to remove the suffering by means of the appropriate antidotes. Right? And this ignorance is like, it is called the root because all our the gross obscurations, subtle obscurations that we just now mentioned, all of these are rooted on the self-grasping ignorance. The two examples that we used was that it is like an iceberg on which houses and everything exists. And once this iceberg melts, then everything will collapse by itself. And also, it is like the root of a poisonous tree, where the poisonous leaves and other things have several kind of afflictions. You have anger, jealousy, attachment, innumerable afflictions. You might have studied in psychology also. All these, again, the root is the self-grasping ignorance. To get some idea about what this ignorance is, I'll use the example of the dream, which I believe this is a standard example, already being discussed. So, while we are dreaming, and in case mostly we are unaware while dreaming that we are dreaming. So, what is the problem that we have when we are dreaming and when we are not aware that we are dreaming? We view the dream as real. It appears as if the thing that we are dreaming is actually happening to us. And if it is a bad dream, if it is a nightmare, then obviously we are affected whether the dream is bad or good while we are dreaming. So the thing is, when we are dreaming, once we wake up and we realize that it is a dream, then both the happiness as well as the suffering or the misery that we were going through while dreaming, both of them would subside. We realize that the dream that we thought is real, that it really existed, was nothing but it was a creation of my own mind, which we only realize once we wake up. So, I would like to ask you one question. So, bad dream is fine. We obviously don't want to have a bad dream. Does anyone see some problem with having a good dream? If you are having a good dream, what is the problem with that? I mean, it's fine, right? Even if you are dreaming, it's a good dream. So, let it be. I mean, is there some problem with that also, or just the bad dreams? Just share your thoughts.
Two things in that. Like if you are, I see two things. Hello. Hello. I see two things in that which are not okay when you are dreaming good dreams. One is either you get addicted to it, that you want to see again and again, so you have that longing for that. One is that, and other is like once you wake up, you get sad because that was important that time, because you are dreaming which was giving you happiness that time. But once you are wake up, then you come into the reality. So that is also an issue.
Yes, I would agree with somewhat what you're saying. I mean, if we are dreaming, but once we wake up, even if it was a good dream, I mean, somehow we realize that. Yeah, that is also possible. I mean, we can get addicted to a good dream even after while waking up. But so that can happen, not denying that. But also the other thing is when we are dreaming a good dream, even while we are dreaming, we have no control over that dream. It can suddenly turn into a nightmare. You know, we have no control over it. It is like that dream is directing us. It is guiding us. I mean, our happiness is under the control of the dream, which is like that. And so there is an involuntary pull happening in case of a good dream, and involuntary push happening in case of a bad dream. So in a sense, there is a loss of freedom. You know, this loss of freedom is what we don't want to have. So this is very important to get some idea of this thing. And so when we say that the dream comes from our own mind, so we call the mind as subject. So we say that the dream exists subjectively. It's a creation of our own mind. And as opposed to the object, the dream exists subjectively. Right? So it's I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term subjective versus objective. I mean, one connotation of subject object is in schools like subjective mathematics. It's different from that. Here subject refers to mind, and object refers to whatever comes to the object of the mind. So the dream exists subjectively as opposed to objectively. Right? While we are dreaming, the dream appears to exist as objectively. It does not appear as a creation of our own mind. But once we wake up, we realize that it was creation of our own mind. So it existed subjectively as opposed to objectively. Use the example of my phone. So if you see my phone here, so how does it appear to you? Does it appear to as it existing from the side of the object or from the side of your subject or mind? From the side of the object, right? And while the reality is that the things exist as dreamlike, of course we have to explore how they exist as dreamlike. Let's assume that this is the reality, that things exist as dreamlike. But dreamlike, what is the connotation of dreamlike? Taking the example of dream, it means that things, while they exist subjectively, they appear objectively to us. Just as this example of the phone I took. So likewise, everything appears to us as existing from the side of the object. Now, what is the problem with this? If we see things as objectively, what is the problem? The problem is just as in the dream, things affect us. If we see things existing from the object side, all our miseries, all our emotions, anxieties, ups and downs that we go through, they occur because of interaction between the subject and the object. It's like the sound of the two hands sound of the clap coming, which occurs when the two hands come together. So here the one hand represents our misperception of reality in reference to the object. The other hand represents our misperception of reality in reference to the subject. So while things exist as dreamlike or subjectively, they appear to us and we believe them as existing from the object side or objectively. So this is one way to understand self-grasping units, viewing things as objectively real. This is the root cause of our ignorance or self-grasping units. So now, if this is how not things are, if things don't exist objectively from the object side, how do they exist? It is undeniable that things exist. So the only other mode of existence that is possible is things exist subjectively by the power of our mind. How is that possible? We'll discuss that. And so the true nature of reality then becomes that things are empty of existing from the object side. This term emptiness comes in this context. What is emptiness? Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means the mode of being of things is that they are empty of existing objectively. Emptiness is like a short form of emptiness of objective existence / independent existence / intrinsic existence. These are technical terms, but don't worry about these. So any questions so far? Any questions, please?
Again, I have not understood the concept of emptiness. I have not understood the concept of emptiness.
Okay, so
It's not clear.
Sure. So far, I have not gone into discussing what emptiness is. What we have discussed so far, that things, as we see around us, things appear to be existing from the object side or is objectively real. And while the reality is that things don't exist in this world, they don't exist objectively, they exist subjectively in a dreamlike manner. So we haven't touched how is it so, just stating it's more like a fact that they exist in this manner. And just simply that the things don't exist objectively, this is termed as emptiness. Emptiness saying that this is things being empty of objective existence. This is termed as emptiness. How they are empty or how do we arrive at this emptiness, that we get some idea once I'll talk about this. So before we explore as to how things are empty or what this emptiness is, I'll just touch upon two topics, subtopics kind of, which will be helpful in getting a better understanding of emptiness. So as the concept of entity-wise one or different, isolate-wise one or different has been covered in previous class. Okay, so it is important concept. So when we usually when we say two things are one or different, so there are two ways in which we can say that see things as to be one or different. One is called entity-wise one or different. So I'll just give the definition of what does it mean by entity-wise one. So when we go towards the object to point to the two, when we point as the referent, so we have two things in our mind. When you go towards the object to point to the referent of those two labels, and we can point to the same object, then it means they are entity-wise one. Again, I'll repeat. So entity-wise one means when we go to point to towards the object to point to the referent of two labels, and we can point to the same thing, it means they are entity-wise one. For example, table and the top plank of a table. So when we go towards the object, that is we go towards the table. Where is the table? The table is here. Where is the top plank of the table? It is here. So we can point to the same object as the referent of two labels. One is top plank of the table, that is my one object, other is the table itself. So as a referent, when you go towards the object and we can point to the same object, then we call that those two entities is entity-wise one. Those two labels is entity, referring to something which is entity-wise one. So any clarification on this thing? Question?
So what I have understood, I'm just trying to re-clarify what I have understood by an example.
Sure.
So I am Kapil, I am son of XYZ,
Right.
I am father of XYZ.
Right.
So that's this is the example. Like by defining it differently, but I'm still pointing it to myself.
Right. So that is one understanding, but one can also see where is Mr. Kapil is there. Where is the hand of Mr. Kapil? I can point to the same part, right? So your hand and yourself, these two are also entity-wise one.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Likewise, entity-wise different. When we go to point towards the object for the referent of two labels, and we have to point to two different objects, then these two labels or referents are entity-wise different. Right? For example, say the flower and the mic. So when I go towards point towards the flower, I go here. There's many flowers. Let's say this clock and the mic. So when I say go towards point to the clock, I go here. When I go towards to point to the mic, I go here. So necessarily I have to point to two different objects. So we say that these are entity-wise different. Now, what is the other term I used was isolate-wise one or different. So in the case of entities, we move towards the object. In case of isolate-wise, we move towards the subject, that is our mind. How the reference of these two labels they appear in our mind when we think about it. For example, I say again the clock and the mic. When I think about the clock, you can just take a moment and close your eyes and see clock. You can visualize this clock or any other clock. And then again, you can think about the mic. So, do they appear as same or different within our minds? Different, right? So, we call them isolate-wise different. So, if two things they appear as different in our minds, when we think about them, they are isolate-wise different. Likewise, in the same manner, the two things, when we think about them, the same thing appears in our mind. We call them isolate-wise one or same. For example, if I ask you to think about water and pani, right, same thing will appear in our minds. Now, can you give me some example of something, two objects which are entity-wise different as well as isolate-wise different? Anything can be a simple example. So for entity-wise, we see which objects are speaking physically different, and also they appear to our mind as different. So an example of thing which two labels which are entity-wise different as well as isolate-wise different.
A flower and a praying flag.
Right. Okay, a flower and a praying flag. These two are entity-wise different because when I go to point towards a flower, I go to point here, and when I go to point towards a prayer flag, I have to go somewhere there. And these two are entity-wise different. Also, when I think about them, if I think of a flower, image of a flower comes to my mind, and when I think of a prayer flag, image of prayer flag comes to my mind, which are different. So now, can you give me some example of things which are entity-wise one, but isolate-wise different?
So, will ice and water be entity-wise same?
Ice and water. Because when it's in the form of ice, it's not water technically. It's a form of water, it's still not water. That's my understanding. That may be wrong. That's something which you can discuss, and I think you answer this.
Can you just please repeat the question?
Okay, question. An example of something which is entity-wise one, but isolate-wise different.
Okay, so entity-wise one and isolate-wise different.
Right.
I would like to take the example of my body and my hand. So when we see from the reference of entity, if I point towards my hand, I can point my hand, and if I point, sorry, I forgot your question. Can you just please repeat it? Entity-wise, one.
Isolate-wise different.
Isolate-wise different.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, if I say, entity-wise, point towards my hand, I can point my hand. And as well as, if you'll say to me, point towards my body, I can also point to my hand.
Right.
Because my hand is also part of my body.
Right.
So it is entity-wise one.
Right.
So on the other hand, if I'll see from the reference of isolate-wise, if I think of my hand, I will think only the hand part.
Right.
And if I think of my body, I will think the whole body. So it is isolate-wise different.
Right. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Anybody else would like to give a different example of entity-wise one, isolate-wise different? No? Okay. So many examples is possible. If I give the top blank of the table and table, when we think about, we can point to the same object, but when we think about the table, it comes as a complete table. When we think about the top rank of the table, the top part will come to our mind. And so, yeah. Another thing that I would like to cover is, have you, the positive or negative phenomena, has it been discussed? This positive phenomena, negative phenomena. Okay, I think let's skip that. So, when we talk about so let's discuss how things are treated. The emptiness, that is a main topic we have been discussing. So let me take the example of a flower again. So as we see the flower, we know that it appears to us from the side of the object, as objectively real. So first question, when we are talking about the reality of things or the way things exist, how do they exist? The very basic question, which may sound very obvious, but still one needs to be sure that, does this flower exist? That is the first question that we need to ask. So what do you think? Does this flower exist?
Yes.
So the answer, if the answer to this question is no, which some philosophers might give us no, so that is like falling into nihilism, which is denying the existence only. So the first thing is that, does this flower exist? Yes, it does exist. Now we go to the next question. How does this flower exist? Does this exist objectively or subjectively? Objectively meaning from the side of the object, subjectively meaning from the side of the subject. So right now it appears to us as if it exists on the object. If we are saying that it exists from the side of the subject of dream life, how do we know that? How can we come to discover that? It is only by examining the subject, the object, by going closer towards it. So one phrase which Lord Buddha said, that I'm not sure if it's in your paper. Yes. So anyways, I'll just read the verse. It says, various delightful flowers blossom, and the supreme golden abodes stand so alluring. Here for none of these is there a creator. They are posited by the power of thought. It is through conceptualization that the things are imputed. So I'll just repeat again. Various delightful flowers blossom, and the sparkling supreme golden abodes stand so alluring. Here for none of these is there a creator. They are posited by the power of conceptualization. So what this verse, it's mentioned by Buddha in a sutra, the Paanorama Sutra. What this verse is saying is indicating that the things exist by the power of conceptualization, the power of our mind, in a way. And before we go and to look closely at how things exist by power of the mind, a powerful verse by Arya Nagarjuna says, if the mirage were to be water, why not those close by the mirage see the water? So in a way, the mirage from a distance, it appears as water to us. And if a child sees it, they will know that it is a water and not a mirage. And how do we discover that it is a mirage, that there is no water there? When we go closer towards the water, then we discover that this is illusion like, there is no water there. So likewise, taking flower as the object, we read this analogy that if this flower were to exist objectively, why don't we see this object as we go closer towards the object? So we'll do a little thought exercise or meditation to really mentally go, obviously physically we go closer towards the flower, it still appears flowers to us. So mentally we go closer towards the flower. So I just do some guided thought process or meditation on this. So maybe we can just close our eyes and sit comfortably. So let's imagine a beautiful rose flower in front of us. We ask ourselves, how does this flower appear to us? As very beautiful, as visually appealing, and so beautiful, my mind is pulled towards this flower. Now, I want to go close to this flower to look at it more closely, examine it. And I go close and close as it magnifies. I can see its surface becoming rough. And I go closer. There are like hair-like structures I can see now. It's beautiful, smooth surface. Now I see it's very rough, up and downs. Still going closer, I see a lot of big structures with boundaries, which are the cells constituting this flower. Very uneven. Center of the cells, I can see the nucleus, cytoplasm, and other contents. And they also contain chromosomes. These chromosomes have a snake-like structure, and they are very repulsive to look at, quite scary. They are not very pleasant to look at, brown. And so what am I looking at now? I am looking at the chromosomes. How do these appear to me? These snake-like chromosomes, dark color, moving around. I feel myself quite repulsed at this sight. So what happened to the appealing feeling that I had when I was looking at the flower earlier? That appealing feeling has gone. I'm seeing the chromosomes and the repulsive feeling is there instead. And where is the flower? What I'm seeing is just the chromosomes containing the nucleus and cells, the structures which are quite scary to look at. Does the flower appear to me now? No, the flower is not there. Flower is empty. Cannot see the flower. So instead of seeing the chromosomes, bring to your mind the flower is no longer there. Flower is empty. This is the emptiness of the flower. Again, chromosomes will appear to us. Again, we ask the question, where is that beautiful flower that I was seeing earlier? Again, we say that It is no longer there. Flower is not there. Just try to hold your mind onto that thought, onto that experience. Now, again, chromosomes may appear to us. We move back from the chromosomes, just as we had come here, gradually move back to our original position. And slowly, that beautiful flowers again begin to reappear and comes in front of us. Just now, what we have discovered as we went close to the flower, the flower was no longer there. What we were seeing were the recursive chromosomes. The flower was empty. Whereas when we again move back, the flower reappears. It reappears based on various factors, based on distance. So it is a mere appearance of the flower that is happening. It is a mere dependent origination, depending on various factors. On the object side, the flower is empty, yet it appears when I go to the distance. To reconfirm this fact, I again go near to the flower and to the level that where I can see chromosomes very clearly. They are very scary to look at and repulsive. Again, that appealing feeling also disappears. And we ask ourselves, where is the flower? The flower is not there. It is empty. Now, we may ask ourselves, I am still seeing the chromosomes. What about these? These are existing. And on their basis, I was seeing the flower earlier. So, they are really there. They are existing objectively in the side of the object. Okay. So again, to really see how these chromosomes exist, we go closer towards these chromosomes as well. As we go close to these chromosomes, we see that they are nothing but constituted of the DNA molecules, which are simply the helical structures, and there is nothing scary about them. So as I've gone closer towards the chromosomes, and I'm looking at those DNA molecules, that feeling of repulsion also disappears. And also, I can no longer see the chromosomes. Where are those chromosomes? What am I seeing now? I'm seeing the DNA molecules. Are they repulsive as the chromosomes? No, they are not. And can I see the chromosomes? No, I cannot see them. They have disappeared. So we try to focus our mind on the disappearance or the emptiness of the chromosomes at this point. Again, we try to go back to originally where we're seeing the chromosomes. As we move back to the point, again they reappear to us. And the repulsing feeling also comes back, seeing them as quite scary form. We feel repulsed again. Again, we try to go closer. And as we go as near so that we can see the DNA molecules, we see that we can no longer see the chromosomes. They are not there, they have disappeared. They are empty on the side of the object. And what about these DNA molecules? I'm sure they exist quite in a solid form, and that is what the basis of the flower. Alright. We go one more step closer towards these DNA molecules, and to the level where we can see just the atoms which constitute these molecules. All I'm seeing is a bunch of atoms, and none of these atoms is the DNA molecule I was seeing. Although I'm seeing this bunch of atoms, the DNA molecule is no longer visible to me. From the object side, what is there is just this bunch of atoms. There is no DNA molecule. It is empty. Again, we move back to the point where we're seeing the DNA molecules. They again appear to us. So they do exist. They do exist as a dependent origination, as an appearance. Again, as we go close to the point where we are seeing the atoms, again it disappears. On the object side, it is empty. Likewise, we can keep going on and on. And we realize that even atoms are empty from the object side. So we stop at this point and gradually move upwards to the point where again the flower appears to us. So what we have discovered by going closer towards the flower is we cannot find the flower from the object side. As we go away from the flower, away from the object, the flower appears to us. Buddha said, that which dependently originates is posited to be empty of objective existence. That being dependently designated, this is the middle way. So that which dependently originates. So from the object side, we have gone closer and we have discovered we cannot find a flower. The flower disappeared when we went close to the object. However, as we come out, we move back, it again appears. By depending on various factors, depending on our distance from the object, depending on the configuration, the light source, several factors. So it is a mere appearance, it is a mere dependent origination. That which dependently originates is posited to be empty from objective existence. So from object side, it is empty. It appears to us by depending on various causes and conditions. So appearance is from the side of the subject. The appearance of the flower, it is not from the object, but it is from the subject side. So it is like a mirage example we took. If the mirage were to be water, when it goes close by the mirage, see the water. So when we go close towards the mirage, we see that the water disappears. Likewise, in this brief exercise or meditation we have done, that as we go closer towards the flower, the initial appearance of the flower disappears. How do we know that? Not only we can no longer see it, and we also the feeling associated with the present feeling of the way we look at the flower, that also completely disappears. On the object side, there is nothing that we can pinpoint to as the flower. So this is in the way we examine and see the flower is empty of objective existence. I'm sure there will be some questions, several questions on this. Anybody would like to ask or clarify any point?
I didn't see DNA. I didn't see molecules. I didn't see atoms. I've never seen. That's just an imagination form.
Right, I understand. But so that is a fair atoms. Okay, so I'm sure many of you would have this. So how many of you can imagine to a certain extent the things if you're science students?
Wow. The word, if you use imagination, I could imagine.
Imagination. I'm not saying you're directly seeing those things.
So I could imagine anything, but I couldn't see anything. So it was your imagination, which was actually you were directing us go that way.
Right. But that is based on the facts. I mean, imagination can be two things. I can ask you to imagine, an elephant in this room. But that is not a factual thing.
But I'm not sure. What you were telling me, I was seeing that. Is it fact or not? I don't know.
So the things I was talking about are scientifically proven to be fact. So that so I mean, so also you can actually see them. There are some videos on YouTube, some NASA company videos, and I think Tibet House can provide the links to those videos. So you can actually go to that level, and there are some see these structures and all those things to the level of molecules and atoms and all those things. So this is not the only way. This is just one way, which took the approach of seeing the modern science way of examining things. And maybe let's just so this was with regard to the flower. So as I said, there are two things which when they come together that some of mysteries happen. That is ourselves interacting with the object. So this is more like an object. How about us? How are we? Can we meditate on the emptiness of the self? So maybe we can quickly go through that and that without going into atoms and more accessible elements of ourselves. Okay. So maybe I can even do a quick guided thing. So in this case, we are meditating on the selflessness or emptiness of our own selves as the object. Again, I will just recite, if the mirage were to be water, one of those close by the mirage see the water. And by analogy, if the person were to exist objectively, why don't I see the person as I go closer towards the object? And how do I go closer towards each object? In this case, I see that as I go closer towards the object, I am constituted of the 6 elements. The element of earth, the solid part that constitute us, element of water, element of fire, element of air, element of space within us, and the element of consciousness. As I go close, I see a thin layer of skin. This skin is showing up me. I'm not this skin. And below the skin, I have the fatty tissues. Again, I am not these fatty tissues. The bones are not me. Here we are focusing on the element of earth. My organs are not me. My heart, kidneys, lungs. For example, I may have a heart transplant, some organ transplant. Some organ may be removed or it may be replaced. So that is not me getting replaced or me getting transplanted. These organs are also not me. My hairs, nails, clearly they are not me. My teeth, eyes. Likewise, none of the solid parts is me. My teeth may get broken, I'm still there. My hairs may be gone, I'm still there. Likewise, we can reflect on various solid parts and realize that they are not me. Now, the element of water, which is mainly blood flowing inside me. Clearly, blood is not me. I have several functionalities. I can eat, sleep. Blood has none of these functionalities. I may donate blood. I may receive blood from others. So I'm not, clearly that is not me. The element of fire or body heat. That is also not me. That is like an energy, whereas I have a solid form. Element of air. Breathe in and breathe out. That is not me. I'm not going in and out of this body. Also, I'm very solid, whereas air is nowhere as solid as I am. Element of space, which constitutes most part of us, can also not be me. I am solid. I have the property of obstruction. Whereas space has no obstruction. Things can pass through space. Then the element of consciousness. That is also not me. I have a physical form. I have a gender. Can eat. Whereas consciousness is no physical form, no gender. Purely consciousness is also not me. Now I've looked at all the 6 elements that constitute me, and none of these are me. Also, other than these 6 elements, there is nothing there that I can identify as me. So looking closely in this way, from the side of the object, I can no longer pinpoint to anything as me or I. I disappears. Try to bring this focus on this thought. Where is this I? I'm only seeing the 6 elements. Other than these 6 elements, there is nothing there as I. And none of these 6 elements is I of this person. So where is this person? It is not there. It's empty. Again, we move back, looking at ourselves from a distance. Clearly, a person appears to us, I, the self appears to us. We are dependent on the 6 elements. That which dependently originates, it's a purely dependent origination, nothing from the side of the object. It's positive to be empty of objective existence. That being mentally designated. From the side of the object, we discover that we cannot find this I, this person or the self. Just from the side, depending on these various factors, we label. From the side of the subject, we say that there is this person, self, or the I. Nagarjuna said, if the person is not earth, not water, not fire, not wind, not space, not also consciousness, and not all of these, where is the person out of those? But we can say that, okay, person, we did not find the person as we went closer and looked at the 6 elements. But what about the 6 elements? They exist, and on the basis of those, I identify the person, I identify myself as a person. Okay, we again, let's pick up the element of earth. Let's say we pick up the element of skin, and we go close to look at this element of skin. How does it exist? As we go close, let's say we directly look at it using a very powerful electron microscope. You just see a bunch of atoms. None of these atoms is the skin that I was originally looking at. I can just see the atoms and the space. The space is also not that skin. So where is the skin that I was looking at? The element of earth that I was looking at. It disappears when I look closely at it. There's nothing from the objective or from the side of the object to be identified as skin there. It is but when I remove the electron microscope, I can see that the skin is there. So that is mere appearance. So just as the person is not truly existing because of being an aggregation of the 6 constituents. Likewise, each constituent or element is also not truly existing because they are aggregations of their own constituents. So slowly we will come out of this meditation. So this was a sample meditation with reference to the person. Meditation on the emptiness of the person. So I would just like to rephrase that emptiness does not mean nothingness. It is a short form of, a brief form of saying emptiness of being empty of objective existence or independent existence. And how do we know, how can we discover that things are empty of objective existence? It is by doing these kind of analysis. These are just sample analysis. Now, there are many ways in which this can be done. This is what is discussed in many writings of the great scholars such as Aruna Rajana, Acharya-202020. So this is just like very brief kind of overview of the approach, which you can gain some idea of how things are possibly empty of objective existence. So, any questions?
So there are two classifications that you gave earlier of things being like entity-wise similar and entity-wise different. Does it only exist from a subjective point of view? We are talking from the subjective point of view. Because if you say objective,
closer.
yes, sir.
Can you just repeat the question again? So others.
The two classifications that you give of things being entity-wise similar and entity-wise different, does it only exist from a subjective point of view?
So I gave two classifications: entity-wise, one are different, and isolate-wise, one are different. So I have a
Does
question.
it only exist from a subjective point of view?
Yes, strictly speaking, everything exists only subjectively. Nothing exists from the side of the object. But at the same time, when we are talking about entity-wise, one are different, and isolate-wise, one are different. We are talking in our day-to-day conversation. When we are analyzing whether things exist subjectively or objectively as we did towards the end, in that analysis, you'll find that everything exists subjectively. But when we are not doing that analysis in our day-to-day conversation, in that context, we can say, okay, that we are pointing to the object, we are pointing to the subject. It may not mean that that object exists objectively. For example, a dream. In the dreaming mind exists and the dreaming content exists. Right? So we can say the dreaming content is the object of that mind. So we can talk in terms of object and subject in that sense. So when we say entity-wise, one are different, and when I go to the point towards the object, doesn't mean that object objectively exists. As I said, the first question, does this power exist? Yes, it exists. Is that your confusion?
Yeah, sort of.
So your confusion is, if this power exists subjectively, then how can I do entity-wise one or different? Is it? So as I said, that even though power exists subjectively, right, it is not. I can still go towards the flower. It does not mean that it is existing on the object side. I mean, in our data, yes.
Maybe a similar question. In the first reference with the flower, you have mentioned the flower dependently exists subjectively, and it was it to be empty from the subject side.
And we have spoken wrongly on the object side.
Object side.
Yes.
Empty from
the side of the object.
Object side.
And we have spoken incorrect.
Okay.
It's not empty from the subject side. If I said that, that is incorrect. Yes.
And sir, is reality completely subjective? What is reality then?
So reality is that the things are purely subjective. That is the reality.
Okay, so what are we trying to achieve by gaining emptiness? Is it a perspective to see towards the things like you just spoon fed it us, like, and I could understand due to my level of knowledge also everybody, whatever we could understand from your spoon feeding, like I may conclude it like I may see a thing, but it is not like that. As per, if I may go towards it inside, I could dissect it and it would be nothing like that objectively. But what are we gaining by emptiness? It should be a perspective towards towards what we see towards the thing, or should it would be coming after practices or just as a theoretical knowledge to us?
Yeah, so this is the most relevant question, and the point from where we kind of started, or the basis of all this is, as I said, that because we want to avoid or possibly get rid of all our sufferings, we need to identify the root cause of our suffering. Right? So here, what we are trying to do is we see that what is the root cause of our suffering. So we took the analogy of the dream first. In the dream, we do not see the dream as, we see the dream as real, and we don't see that it is a creation of our own mind. Right? So how does that impact us? If while we are dreaming, we are aware that we are dreaming, no matter what we are seeing, we won't be affected by it. Be it good or bad, it is just a dream. I can still enjoy it, or I can still play around whatever is happening. But I won't be fearful of the dream, and I won't be overly excited about the dream is, because I know I am only creating it. Only when we are unaware, it affects us. Likewise, we are trying to see if the things around us, if they are also dreamlike, they are also subjective. If they are, then they are like our mind is in a way, projecting them. They're coming from our own mind. Then, if we realize that this is in fact a fact, that they are actually coming from our own mind, in a way they're like dreamlike, then the miseries, how they happen to us, the objects they affect us, anything good, we are pulled towards it. Anything bad, we try to run away from it. So, if like a dream we discover that, no, whatever it is good or bad, it is my own, it's coming from my own mind. It does not exist on the side of the object. So then that both the fear of the thing, also the attachment towards the thing, various other emotions, they might subside. So the whole purpose of this is not an intellectual exercise or just for the purpose of study. The main purpose is to know what the reality is and how, in what way that reality can serve our immediate purpose of reducing our suffering and increasing our happiness. Any other questions?
Sir, so I'm trying to convince myself that after through these exercises and meditation, we are trying to see through my sufferings.
More specifically, the causes of suffering.
So we are trying to see our sufferings as emptiness. This means nothing. That's the point. That are we trying to prove now with all this?
So it's not we are trying to prove something that is not there. We are trying to discover or analyze how things are. Let me say, it's more like doing analysis of things. How do they exist? And the way we perceive them, is it in alignment with the reality, the way they exist? So the whole thing is our suffering arises because there is a misalignment. How we perceive things and how they exist. There is a gap there. And as long as there is a discrepancy, it will cause us suffering.
According to all the examples, it goes more towards scientifically because we are, for example, sir took the example of our physical body. I mean, we are going through atoms, DNA, chromosomes, and all. So I'm kind of confused. Like, actually, we're trying to prove that, no. Actually, we're trying to gain happiness, maximum happiness. So what we are doing is we are getting rid of our sufferings through many ways and means.
So, yes, you are right. So there are two aspects. One is getting rid of all our sufferings, as possible, and also to gain maximum happiness that is possible. Now, in order to get rid of our suffering, we can only do that if we are able to identify the cause of suffering at the most precise level, the most subtlest level. And only then we can talk about that can we eradicate that cause which is causing our suffering. If we can eradicate, then how? Right. So here what we discussed in kind of a more very brief manner is that the root cause of our suffering is our ignorance, self-grasping, more specifically self-grasping ignorance, which is the way we view the things and which is not aligned with reality. How we view the things instinctively or usually by our habit is existing as from the side of the object. I see a flower or glass of juice, it exists from there. It has nothing to do with my own mind. This is the juice and I drink it and it satisfies me and I'm happy. And say there is some fire burning there and if I put my hand on it, it burns me. These things exist there as the objects and I am separate from these. I have nothing to do with it. And so I'm affected by all these things. I feel happy, I feel sad. Now what we are trying to do is our perception of these things is existing from their own side as objectively. This is a term using from the side of the object, independent from my mind. Do they really exist in that manner? If this is the ignorance, if this what we are saying is the root cause in our ignorance, that means things don't exist in that way. For that purpose, we try to see how can we discover that things don't exist in that way. We can discover that by really going close towards the object and seeing how does it exist. So in the first case, we try to go towards the flower and we try to see where is that flower, how does it exist. So by that exercise, we try to discover that flower is not, there's nothing as flower on the side of the object. Right? And likewise, that is one example. Another example we took ourselves. Do we exist objectively as a person? Through the second thing, we try to go closer towards the ourselves and analyze. How do we exist objectively? Do we exist? So we also are not findable from the side of the object. It does not mean to say that flower does not exist, I don't exist. The only thing is our mode of apprehension or how things appear to us. That is not in line with the reality. While things exist in a dreamlike manner, they're not exactly a dream, but dreamlike coming from our mind. We perceive them and believe them to be existing on the side of the object. And by discovering this reality, once we see that they're coming from our own mind, it will help us remove our suffering. Any other questions? So maybe we can do the dedication to us.
Actually, I have one question. So, can you explain the emptiness of inherent existence? If you have used objective existence and another term, inherent.
So these terms are synonymous. I just gave you some different synonymous terms. So emptiness of objective existence / independence / intrinsic. These are used interchangeably. These are synonymous. There is no difference in emptiness of objective existence or emptiness of intrinsic existence. So what this means is if something is objectively existing, it's like intrinsically existing, believing it to be existing intrinsically or inherently or independently.
We'll do the additional meditation prayer, and it's on page number 82. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happinesses. All powerful Genesis 17Jan2020, please remain until Samsara ends. Just as the great Manjushri and Samatapala too realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I follow the perfect example. I dedicate all these rules of virtue with the dedication to is the best, by the victorious ones thus born of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the Supreme Bodhicitta that has not risen arise and grow, and may that which has risen not diminish but increase forevermore. Changchu Tencho Rinpoche Anke Gushi Kewanya Pame Payam Goni Gondu Pevarshu.
As long as stress remains. Due to the merits of his virtuous actions, man quickly attained the state of Buddha
And lead all beings without exception into the enlightened state. I dedicate the merit thus gathered towards the realization of the deeds and the prayers of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the three times, and to the upholding of the Dharma of teaching and realization. May I in all lives, through the whole of this life, never separate from the four deeds of Mahaya vehicle, and accomplish all the stages of the path. Bodhicitta, perfect view, and the two stages. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativity individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all beings. I hold the precious Buddhahood in my heart. The path of the union of emptiness and compassion is lucidly explained by the protector of both the Dharma and the beings of the small land. You are the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso. We supplicate you that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds, or the negative forces of humans and non-humans, who harbor malice through poetic prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas, be totally vanquished through the power of the truth of the three jewels. In all my lives, never separate from perfect Guru, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the stages and paths. May I quickly attain the stage of Vajradhara. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by Ayam Manjushri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings of dependent origination in particular, even at the cost of my life.
Thank you, Dr. Ankita. Thank you for this so profound teaching, emptiness, and there's no way we could understand the phenomena of the topic emptiness in this one class or 1 hour class. And surely I hope that he just give you a spark of a hint of an like a thunderbolt to the introduction to the emptiness, and I hope he did that well. So at last, I would like to thank him from all the participants, and primarily from the Tibet House, the main coordinator, Tibet House, and the LSWSD Student Union Delhi, with the traditional pataks and a small souvenir from our Genla. I'll request Genla to please.
Thank you.
There are a few announcements I would like to make, as many of you are asking me about the conference registration and the language course. So I would like to make a very clear. Okay, I'll make few announcements in number wise. All right, number one, and we are reopening the 19th batch of Tibetan language course, which registration is open. You can go to Tibet House website and you can directly go into the registration desk and it will come up automatically. All right, and secondly, very important thing that we are going to organize two conferences, and one is on universal ethics for 21st century towards a common understanding, which will be organized with, in collaboration with MT Settlement, and it will be, the venue will be at MT at Chushiramdu if you are very much interested, because the speakers who are coming from is a very profound, and they are very, very enlightening, that it will help you because all of you are studying so far. So it will very much help you and rooted you through your understanding and open up your horizon. All right. And thirdly, we are going to organize Tibet House and the Counseling Earth-Based Therapy are organizing a two-day conference on psychology, which many of you are from the background of psychology, and also Pujala has taught about this Buddhist psychology, so you all have much more interest on these Buddhist studies. Now it will be held in Woolmore Hall at India Habitat Center, and it is on 15 and 16 February. And all of you are students, actually there will be a pre-conference workshop which will be very helpful, and all the speakers are coming from, one is coming from London, who is a very, very well-known psychiatrist, and if you are interested, you can, it's very cheap, you can directly go to our website to register, and Tibet House will provide certificates, and we all are students. I'm also a student, so it will be very helpful in our future for this certificates. So I hope that you can share with your friends, because it's all benefit for you all. So I hope you'll get it. What I said. Okay, good night, and we'll see you on next Tuesday. Bye-bye.